All right, you guys. So sometimes I don't know. Every video I'm doing here, guys, there's a YouTube video that already kind of talks about these things, but talking about what kitchen utensils that you actually need versus the ones that you don't. And one piece of advice that I saw, I think it was from Gordon Ramsay or somebody, had said that don't buy kitchen utensils that have a single purpose, one only job, one only thing that you're going to make with it, right? So I think something like this, a olive cherry picker or pitter. I use it actually. I use it more often now, actually, lately. But not everybody's going to use it very often. I didn't use it for years, and partially because this type of steel, like if you put it through the dishwasher, as I have, it'll turn your hands black. You need to wash it off. You need to get all that black off. And so it's a hand wash thing. It's a little bit annoying. Sometimes you'll find ones that are like stainless or chrome plated or something like that. That might be okay. One thing that I did have, this is another thing that I pretty much never use. This is a ravioli cutter, right, for a pasta cutter. But I almost never use it because I very rarely actually make pasta from scratch. I probably should. And then I also have in here a melon baller, which frankly, I think this thing is a virgin. I think I've had it for 5 or 6 years, and I've never used it. Because I just never use melon balls for some reason. And other things, like I've used these before. These are for making cannolis. You wrap them around that and throw it in the deep fryer or whatever. But yeah, there's a few things in here that I never use, right? So don't get really the basic foundational things first, and if you find that you really like making a certain thing, then maybe go for the single use type things, but generally speaking, you want things with the most versatility to start off with. So these are dry measures. Dry measuring is different than wet measuring, right? And so I don't like these ones as much, the plastic ones, for a couple reasons. One is that plastic cannot be sterilized. You can wash it, and it probably would get pretty close, but it can't be completely sterilized. But also these numbers rub off, and eventually you can't read them. So where if you have steel or something that's engraved, then you can use them for longer once those are mixed up and wiped off, and you'll actually be able to tell what you're actually measuring. This is a sifter. They have different models now. Sometimes they have the wheel on the inside that spins around. You don't want to necessarily wash these though, because this type of steel down here, whatever they use for this mesh, has a tendency to corrode. And really, if you're only putting through flour and salt and baking powder, you really shouldn't have a real neat baking soda to really wash that. Same thing here. When you wash a rolling pin, you can wash like the marble ones would probably be okay, but for the old school wood ones, there's oils in here that you're going to remove from that, and those are going to help them be non-stick. So you're going to actually start to ruin your rolling pin if you do hand wash it. So just a quick wipe off with maybe a damp towel is fine, or a dry one. Just to get the most of the stuff off. Remember, with the sifter and with the rolling pin, anything that you cook is going to be cooked. Anything you use it for is going to be cooked. So any leftover bacteria here, that piece is falling off. Any leftover bacteria in here is going to hopefully be cooked out. Now, when it comes to mixing bowls, I prefer stainless or glass. Glass can get broken. Stainless, you can drop it a million times. Has some dents in it, but I don't like plastic. Again, going back to the idea that plastic is not necessarily able to be completely cleaned. So when we talk about this all out of order, but when it comes to pots, this is what I use for pasta, especially if I'm doing like a spaghetti or a fettuccine or something like that, because it's got enough space for it to move around in there. And it's really important that you have this large space, because especially when it first drops in, it's going to have the gluten in the water is going to cause it to kind of stick to itself, and you can end up with a big hard pasta ball at the very end of what you're cooking, if it doesn't have at least some room to move around. So this type of saucepan, which I'll use this for penne, I'll use it for a macaroni type or shells or something like that, because they're smaller pieces and they can move around a lot more. But just generally for sauces and whatnot. So that's your saucepan. Now, when it comes to fry pans, here's the thing, and this is something I've been learning. And again, like a lot of things, I learned through mistakes. Like this guy, this is my new Happy Glass teapot, and the reason why I have a glass teapot is I don't trust the other ones because they corrode on the inside, and I'm drinking all that corrosion, and I don't like it. So glass one doesn't corrode. Can it get dropped? Can it get broken? Yeah. And one thing to note about the glass kettles is that they come with this guy. So if you have the old school coils on your cooktop, you need to put this underneath it, otherwise the heat can be uneven and parts of the glass can be hotter than others, and that's going to cause them to expand and contract at different rates, and then your glass is going to crack. So this is an aluminum fry pan that is coated with granite. And frankly, I really fucking love this pan, but its brother over there is the large one, is warped. And so the thing is that all metal can warp. And what's going to cause it to warp is going to be sudden changes in temperature as well as uneven temperature, right? So just like with the glass, things are going to expand and contract at different rates. So if you have a large fry pan, and the reason why that one is warped is that it is bigger than this burner, and that's my largest burner. And so the middle was getting heated, but the outside wasn't. So the middle started to rise up, and it started to pull the granite apart. So in the center area, there's no non-stick property anymore. Whereas this one, you know, it's perfectly flat, it's perfectly smooth. It's probably going to last me forever, and I love it. There are different ceramic ones that you can get that also boast like that they're going to be non-stick, and that's pretty great actually. But that being said, taking care of your fry pans and whatnot, they're always a hand wash thing. You never put them in the dishwasher, even when they say that you can put them in the dishwasher. I have a cheapo Teflon one that I put in the dishwasher that says that, and it's been lasting forever, but the rest of the set died a long time ago. And it's just because I've already replaced it with that granite one, and so if it dies, I don't care. But, you know, if I do care about it, I'm not going to do that. I don't worry about this too much. But you'll see that a lot of fry pans are going to be reinforced with steel on the very bottom. So you're going to have like multiple layers there. And having those layers actually is going to, the heavier the base, generally speaking, the better it's going to heat around. They're usually going to be more expensive, and they're going to be more resistant to warping. That being said, they're usually going to, you're still going to have some levels of aluminum in there. Even if they were full steel, they're not going to hold their shape forever. So the more that you don't submerge them in cold water, you let them sit. And by the way, this is a marble countertop. My old place had granite. If you don't have that, have like a wooden board that you can set your hot pans onto, so you can free up the stove as you need to. I love the stone-based countertops because you can set your hot pans on there. It does nothing to them. Whereas if you have the fake ones, or you have the laminate or whatever, that's going to warp and that's going to get destroyed by putting a hot pan on that. So be mindful of that. You know, there are copper pans as well. I have never used one, so I can't speak for it. The all stainless steel pans stick like a motherfucker. It doesn't matter how much oil you put into them. They're going to stick like crazy. Speaking of oil, this is on there. We're talking about fry pans. I hate this thing. It's because I was going to Costco and I was getting these spray cans that were single use, and then you had to throw them away. They worked better, but I didn't like all the way, so I got this guy, and it's better than just pouring oil straight into a pan, because it creates a nice thin, even layer on the pan, whereas if you just pour oil in there, you're going to use, you know, at least, you know, 5 times, maybe more of the amount of oil in there, and that's going to increase your calorie content on that. A good colander. This one sucks. I think it's my roommate's, but we actually don't know. It just appeared one day. And it's okay. It works. I've had it forever. It's stainless. The other type of pan is going to be your cast iron pans. And those ones, people swear by them. I have mixed feelings about them. If you get them wet, then you have to immediately re-season them, which means to put oil on the bottom of them and then stick them into the oven, I believe face down. And what that's going to do is it's going to make those oils kind of seep into there and prevent rusting. And it's you have to do that every time that you wash it with water and soap too much. So you can do a quick wash off and probably be okay, but you want them to dry really quickly, so you still would probably want to stick them in the oven, and preferably with oil. But they don't stick, and they are really, really hard to get to warp. So the longevity on those pans, if you are very anal about how you take care of them, is actually pretty long. So I said that we got all over pots, pans, colanders. I also have a thin strain colander. Now, Gordon Ramsay in his masterclass does a thing where when he's doing mashed potatoes, he presses his potatoes through something like this to get them really fine. To me, it kind of starts tasting like mashed potatoes from a box. So I don't like that method at all. But for other things, like you can use this for powdered sugar or something like that to kind of coat over, or cocoa powder or something, and it'll give it a nice light, even dusting. So those fine strainers are good for that. I also use them in bartending a lot. So when I'm at work. So if I'm muddling up something that's going to have chunks and stuff that's going to ruin the personality of my cocktail, I'm going to put it through that guy really quick. Pardon me, I'm going to see if I have to take the answer to this. That does not say anything. Okay. Going further down here, we're going to talk about cooktop things for a moment. So generally, this is a flexible rubber spatula. It's good for baking and anything like sauces or whatnot that you need to be able to get everything out, making cakes or whatever. So that's kind of a good thing. This one's made by KitchenAid, and top comes off so you can clean everything. There's no caverns for bacteria and food to stay in. And I didn't like this one at first, and then I started using it a lot more, and I actually kind of like it. A lot of times you're going to see the white ones that basically all the spatulas on one side and the handles is continuation, so it looks more like a knife. So notice that I'm using plastic spatulas here. The reason for it is I don't want to scratch the surface of my cookware, and even if a frying pan says, oh, you can use metal on it, because a lot of people advertise that way, don't. That is fucking stupid. Don't do it. Next, well, this is a pasta fork. This is, I think, one of the things that are higher on your list of things that are necessary. And so far, everything here, maybe the sifter might be something that you might be like, I don't need. You can use a fork to mix your flour with baking powder, baking soda, and salt and all that, so you don't get high concentration areas of that. So you don't necessarily need that. You can also, if you have one of these colanders, you can take this and use a spoon to sift that out. It takes a little bit more time, but you don't necessarily have to have that sifter. A good can opener. I don't like the mechanical ones, so whatever. But we're still on stovetop stuff. I generally don't clean these really. I'll do a quick wipe down sometimes, but they tend to rust, so I don't like to do that. If you are going to do mashing, a good strong potato masher, a lot of the old school ones I had started to curve inward and they didn't do as good of a job, and they also started rusting. So I like this one. This one's another KitchenAid one. It's pretty heavy. Again, that's kind of more of an optional thing. Ladle is probably a good thing for you to have because it's good for soups and whatnot. I do still use wooden spoons because, again, they're not going to scratch the surface. This is a slotted kitchen spoon. It's also a silicone plastic something. But if you're wanting something, you've boiled it, like if you steamed broccoli and you don't have colander, you can use this to get it out. Things like that. So this is one of the things I would say is pretty high up on my list. A good pair of tongs. Now these ones don't have silicone tips or anything like that. These are my grill tongs. The other ones are in the dishwasher. But that's a good thing to have for flipping things. If you don't, it's not 100% necessary. You've got spatulas to do that too. But sometimes it's going to be an easier thing to navigate. So there's that. Optional. This is just a little brush. They make these with horsehair. They make them with silicone. The horsehair ones I tend to find start to lose their hairs into your food. And so I've actually moved away from those and I stick with the silicone. So if I'm doing a barbecue or something like that and I want to keep adding sauce to the top, the silicones, and also these don't melt. Well, within reason. My other ones in the dishwasher, a good whisk. That's a good thing to have. Optional is a meat tenderizer, almost never use it. This is a carving fork, almost never use it. So there's two types of cheese graters, so I guess I didn't pull the other one out. And all the other ones in the dishwasher. So this would be like for nutmeg or herbs, whatnot. And if you like cheese, if you grate it a lot, or you grate nutmeg or other things a lot, then a good cheese grater. This fine one is going to be used more for like hard cheeses like Asiago or Parmigiana or something along those lines. Romano or whatever. The bigger ones were going to be for your softer cheeses like a cheddar, right? But I also have these rotor graters, and I went through a long series of rotor graters that I absolutely was disappointed with. And the idea is really, really convenient. This one comes with a bunch of attachments. So it's got a thin slicer. I just threw across the floor, but it'll be all right because it's all steel. And then this is the fine grater, so you don't necessarily have to have that. You can start off with one or the other. These are faster; they're more convenient in a lot of ways. But if you're doing a lot of cheese, like grating cheddar for a pasta or something like that, you might want to go with the big flat one. This one is all steel, and that for me is a total must. So the ones that have like the plastic framing for the rotary wheel, that part breaks. And this part breaks, or has broken on me. This one, and I usually have those ones probably for about 4 to 6 months before I'm just fed up, and they're broken to the point where I just feel like I can't really use them. This one I've had for 5 or 6 years. I was on the fence about it. Like, it looks like thin, cheap steel, but this is the LOV Kitchen brand, and I've had this for a long time, and it's held up really, really well, actually. Hot pads. So, the last few things here. Oyster shucker, right? If you eat a lot of oysters, that's a good thing to have. Maybe someday I'll do a video on how to shuck your oysters, or the way that I do it. I don't know if I do it the proper way. I start at the hinge, and then I work my way out to the mouth, because a lot of times I can't find the mouth, and the hinge is the easiest spot to see. But jigger for cocktails mostly, but if you need to have something down to the ounce, this is a good way of doing it. This one is a Japanese jigger, and this because of the steep edges, it's going to have less of a chance of fluid back washing out and going out of it, and it's a little bit more accurate than say these guys, right? Because these have a shallower bowl, and so it's more likely for whatever you're doing to come out of there. Cocktail strainer. Again, I'm a bartender. Okay, scale. This is I think actually this is one of the better things for you to have, especially if you're trying to lose weight. And really, like I'm not too keen on the idea of weighing absolutely everything all the time, because it becomes inconvenient. And the more inconvenient something is, the less likely you're going to stick to it. So if you are constantly weighing absolutely everything, then you're going to burn out on it. But I think it's valuable when you're starting to assess your diet or assess the way that you eat and trying to change your relationship with food. It's a good idea to spend a couple days just weighing everything, so that you get a ballpark of like, okay, I can actually calculate my calories, I can calculate my proteins, carbs, and fats from what I know about these foods. And there are online resources, there are books and whatnot that can help you with knowing what everything is. But also, like, if you're baking a lot and you need something more accurate than, say, this, weight is more accurate. Sort of. Right? And that's something that I recently learned. We were doing a thing at work where we were boxing up exactly 5 ounces of rice into to-go containers to donate to the hospital, and we wanted it exactly at 5 ounces. So we were using an analog scale, so not a digital one, which is definitely better. The analog in this case was better. And what we found is that you could try to scoop exactly the same amount every single time, and it was going to be different every single time, and sometimes not by a small margin either. So the thing about that is that with rice, because you're boiling the rice is, each grain is going to hold a different amount of water, and hopefully that averages out. But sometimes you're going to actually get less rice because you had more water content when you weighed. And so for something like that, a measuring cup might actually be better. But the same problem is going to be there, is that the rice is going to swell, right? Different thermometers. This is a deep fry candy thermometer. Mine disappeared. This is a mercury one. I don't know how I feel about that, but whatever. This is old school analog meat thermometer. Just stick it in. You don't want to go past the center of the meat, right? You want to go halfway through the meat so that you're in the dead center, because the tip is where it's going to do the most measuring. And that's going to give you the most accurate measurement. Whereas if you go too deep, you might, if you're doing it on the barbecue, you're going to get some of that flame heat. It's going to influence that. If you do it in a pan, that's going to influence it. If you take it off the pan and set it onto a board or a plate or something like that, then it doesn't matter as much. But again, the outside edge is going to be more hot. The digital ones, these ones are a little bit slow. You can get ones that are almost instant read now. This one was cheaper. But the thing about these is a lot of times, this one says it goes up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. So actually that's pretty high. A lot of the deep fry ones are going to be closer to going up to 500 degrees and whatnot, which is something we do need to talk about. But there's no interpretation with these. They tell you exactly what it is, but sometimes you have to hold it in longer. You have to do 2 rounds with this one to actually get it up to what the actual temp is, and sometimes it takes a lot longer, and that's time that your meat's potentially overcooking, or if it's out somewhere, it's cooling down, and so that's can cause more of a toughness to your meat in the end product. So I hope this gives you a better idea of foundational things that you should have in your kitchen. There's other things I can talk about. We have the KitchenAid here. Food processor is a quick and easy way of doing a lot of things in the kitchen. So there are definitely different things that you might feel that you need more than others. But generally speaking, I think that this is actually a good foundation of things that you should absolutely have in your kitchen. And I know this might seem really, really basic, but a lot of people, when they're not, as much of an avid cooker as I am, or consistent cook as I am, they're not going to have one of these. Going back to that first topic, this is for scooping off the top of a tomato. I actually use this a fair amount because I like tomatoes. I'm allergic to apples now, so I can't use this as an apple core. Works on pears and all that. It was kind of a convenient thing when I had it, when I was still eating those things. So, yeah. Oh, flat edge spatula. That's good for getting better measurements. But make sure that if you do get one of those, that one's not wide enough to go over my 1 cup measure, and so I have to use a knife anyways. So, but knives you'll often find when it's at least a kitchen knife, there's a hump there, and I don't know if it's a design thing because I think it looks cool, but it's not a straight edge. And a lot of times cutting knives, which do have a straight edge, or usually they're not going to be. They're not going to be thick enough, but you might have one. So, anyways, guys, that's what I have for you today for basic tools that you should probably have in your kitchen. If you guys have things that you want to recommend, or things that you think I missed, or things that I said were important that you're like, go ahead and say it down in the comments, guys. This is for helping everybody. So, thank you for watching. You guys have a lovely afternoon. Hey guys, speaking of completely unnecessary things for your kitchen, I was going to pull that one out and I lost it. Oh dear. There it is. Creme brulee torch. So, you might find this for if you're serving sushi or something like that. This is a good tool to have, making creme brulees or that type of thing. Most of the time I just use it for starting fires in my fire pit outside. This was a joke tea bag that I got. This is a octopus. It is hilarious, but it does not work very well as a tea bag. Speaking of not working very well as a tea bag, a tea bagger, yes, that is a scrotum. So, that was joke gifts that I got at one point in time, completely useless pretty much, but I do love them. So, yeah, there's a little amendment for you.